When my mom chuckled and said, "You're not real family," I calmly replied, "Then my money isn't real either." Paid for my dad, left a generous tip, and walked out, leaving the check sitting in front of her as the whole table fell silent. I pause outside the private dining room of the Cypress Room, my fingers tightening around the carefully wrapped box in my hand, the glossy silver paper catching the dim corridor light as if trying to reassure me. Through the frosted glass, I see the vague silhouettes of my family already seated, perfectly arranged around the long polished table, like a portrait meant to evoke warmth, but somehow radiating only expectation. The soft clinks of expensive crystal drift through the door, my family's usual soundtrack of polite superiority. 8 years. 8 long, exhausting years of answering every call, of solving every crisis, of draining my accounts at the slightest hint of need. And tonight, I tell myself, tonight is finally the moment when they'll see me. When all the sacrifices I made in silence will stand in the spotlight. When I'll matter. I smooth the fabric of my black dress, take a measured breath, and push open the door. My mother, Eleonora, sits upright at the far end, framed by the flickering chandelier, her posture as rigid as her judgment. Her eyes narrow the moment she sees me. She doesn't speak, but the tiny purse of her lips is enough. A catalogue of my imperfections, ready to be recited later. Preston, my older brother, lifts his wine glass with a smirk curling at the corner of his mouth, the same expression he wore when he blamed me for breaking his toys and told Mom I was crying for attention. Spencer, the younger one, looks up from his phone and stretches his lips into a smile that reaches nowhere near his eyes. "Camille! Finally decided to show up," he announces loudly, as though my punctuality is already unreasonable. Only one person rises for me. My father, Harrison Collins, stands to his full, still impressive height, arms open wide, the kind of smile on his face I used to think meant love. "There's my girl," he says, voice warm, pride coloring his tone. I walk around the table, touch briefly acknowledged by the others, but I let his embrace ground me. "Happy birthday, Dad," I whisper. His hug tightens, sincere, the only anchor in this room of drifting loyalties. I hand him the wrapped box. "This is for you." "You didn't have to get me anything, Camille," he murmurs, but his eyes light the way a child's do in the presence of cake and candles. I sit at the lone empty chair, placed deliberately across from my mother, just far enough from the rest to remind me of my position. Tangential, useful, replaceable. The server appears beside me. "Would you like something to drink, miss?" "Yes, I'll have—" "She'll have the house white," my mother cuts in smoothly. Not looking at me, Camille never could tell the difference between wines. Her dismissiveness slides over the table like a shadow. I force a smile. "Actually, I'll have the Cabernet. The 2018 vintage, please." Eleonora's smile thins. Must be nice to have disposable income without real responsibilities. Like children. Ah, there it is. The knot in my stomach returns home like a well-trained dog. I inhale. "I'd like to order a second appetizer for the table." Preston rolls his eyes. "Of course you would, always showing off." My mind flickers back to the first major sacrifice I made for them. 22 years old, fresh out of college, giddy with pride over my $10,000 bonus I had planned to invest it. My mother's hysterical call came first. "We're losing the house, Camille. Please. Your father won't ask, but we need help." I wired the entire bonus before letting myself think. Their gratitude seemed genuine then. For one day, I was the hero, the responsible one. Their fixer, Julian, my boyfriend at the time, warned me. "They're using you, Cam. This won't stop until you make it stop." I didn't listen. He left 3 months later. Dinner trudges forward. Spencer brags about his latest girlfriend, speaking with the arrogance of a man whose education was funded by my loans. Preston interrupts just to boast about another major investment opportunity. He makes a show of sipping the Cabernet I ordered, eyes on me, silently reminding me he expects me to cover everything. Then comes the gift exchange. Preston presents grilling tools still in plastic packaging. Spencer gives a framed photo of him and Dad at a baseball game, a game I wasn't invited to. Then my father unwraps the vintage Hamilton watch I spent 3 months tracking down. Its silver casing gleams under the lights, the leather straps soft and elegant Camille. Dad whispers, eyes glassy. This is too much. Warmth blooms in my chest, but before I can breathe, I feel the shift. My mother's expression hardens, resentment carving fresh lines around her mouth. Well, she says loudly, I suppose when you don't have a husband or family of your own to support, you can afford to buy whatever you want. The sting is immediate. That's not fair, Mom. Not fair? She laughs, brittle as thin ice. What's not fair is how you flaunt your money to make the rest of us feel small. You're trying to buy your father's love. The words slice. I paid for his surgery, I blurt, too loudly. I'm paying for this entire dinner. There it is, she snaps, always keeping score. You want the truth? You're pathetic. A lonely, bitter woman, not even part of this family. My father says nothing. Preston sips his wine, Spencer watches, detached. And in that quiet moment, clarity blooms like a bruise. I've never been their daughter. I've been their bank. Banks, I suddenly realize, have the power to foreclose I stand. My legs tremble, but I hold my chin high as I leave the Cypress room. At the payment desk, I slide 2 crisp bills to the server. Charge only my meal and my father's to my card, I say softly. Deliver the rest to Mrs. Eleonora Collins. Her eyes widen, but she nods. Outside, the night air crackles against my skin. My phone buzzes, 6 missed calls from my mother. I'm reaching my car when a text from my cousin Alicia appears. Did you see what they were saying about you in the family group chat? What family group chat? The screenshots arrive, Preston. She booked the private room. Time to launder her bonus. Spencer. Hope she gets the good steak. Eleonora. Be nice. Your sister is trying. Those 3 dots, just trying, carry more dismissal than any insult. My heart numbs. They plan tonight. Hours later, alone in my apartment, I listen to Eleonora's voicemails, each one more venomous. I block her number for the first time in my life. The silence afterward is holy. I book a 10-day trip to Tuscany, something I've dreamed of since college, always postponed because of family emergencies. Then I lay out my financial records, the truth unfolding across my kitchen table. $30,000 for Dad's surgery. Insurance would have covered it. $15,000 in property taxes. $10,000 for Preston's failed business. Thousands upon thousands more. My retirement delayed by 5 years. My personal life obliterated. My future swallowed whole by their needs. The next morning, I sit in Dr. Croft's office. I'm free, I whisper. So why do I feel so guilty? Because Fixer was a role, she says gently. Not your identity, Julian texts. I don't respond yet. That night, Spencer creates a GoFundMe titled Family Betrayed by Narcissist Sister. I report it for fraud. It's removed within hours. His email arrives next. You'll regret this. But for once, I don't. 2 days later, I find Eleonora's letter in my mailbox. 5 pages of emotional acrobatics, ending with P.S. The property tax bill is due next month. I cut the letter into tiny squares and let the confetti fall into the trash. I make 3 calls. To my bank, rebuilding my retirement. To Rachel, asking her never to bring up my family again. To a pottery studio, finally enrolling. Dad calls that night. A soft, tired Cammy? I miss him. But I tell him the truth. I won't sacrifice myself anymore. He doesn't argue. Not really. His silence says everything. Life begins to shift. I meet Julian for coffee. I decline Thanksgiving. I start smiling without waiting for the next crisis to strike like lightning. A year passes. Then Spencer texts. We need to talk. It's about Dad. The old instinct, panic, sparks, but I smother it. I finish work before responding. I choose a public cafe, choose my seat, choose my boundaries. I start recording before he arrives. Julian sits nearby, pretending to work, but watching over me like a quiet sentry. Spencer enters, theatrically somber, armed with photos of Dad looking frail. He claims Dad needs surgery. He blames me. He tries guilt, anger, volume. He slips. Mom already promised I'd pay. The entire thing unravels. I call Dad right there. Surgery? He repeats, baffled. I just changed my medication. I'm fine, sweetheart. Spencer bolts from the cafe. For the first time, I see my family clearly. Not a single unit, but a fragile machine powered by my self-destruction. I end the call with Dad gently. Take care of yourself, I tell him. I love you, but I won't be used anymore. And as I step into the crisp morning air, I feel it fully, finally, undeniably. I am free.